As a devoted fan of historical dramas who has spent countless hours immersed in the lives and times of queens and monarchs, I must say that Reign truly captured my heart with its captivating portrayal of Mary, Queen of Scots. Adelaide Kane's portrayal of Mary was nothing short of magnificent, embodying the strength, vulnerability, and fashion sense of a tragic monarch across 4 seasons. When the TV show Reign concluded on the CW, it explained the fates of characters such as Kenna, who were no longer part of Queen Mary's Adelaide Kane story. Notably, the CW is recognized for its science fiction and fantasy shows, including the Arrowverse and long-running series Supernatural Magic. However, the network has delved into historical fiction in the past, with dramas like Reign being one example. Uh, this series, inspired by a Mary, Queen of Scots life, blended real historical events with soap opera-like narrative to crafting engaging story about Mary's life in Francis. Toby Regbo and sought power, control consciousness, and in the television show, the life of Queen Mary took center stage, yet numerous pivotal characters played crucial roles in her narrative throughout the series. Despite some historical discrepancies that history enthusiasts might have noted, the richness of the characters' development left fans eager to know each one's ultimate destiny. However, the network declined to renew the series for a 5th season, leaving the cast and crew in full production on the 4th. Consequently, certain characters received on-screen resolutions, while others' fates remained open to interpretation by the audience. Well, played by Caitlin Stacey. As I bring my review to a close for the 2nd season of this captivating series, I find myself reflecting on the departure of the intriguing character, Kenna, initially serving as one of Mary's trusted ladies-in-waiting. Her life took an extraordinary turn when she caught the eye of the King of France himself. Their relationship deepened to a point where she became his mistress, and then, surprisingly, she married his illegitimate son. As Kenna travels across Sweden, she encounters a young prince and initiates a chat with him, promising to correspond via letters and expressing interest in visiting. Once she assists on the scene with a family matter involving her sister's child. This encounter suggests that Kenna is seeking another royal connection to bolster her social standing, an endeavor that proves challenging for her since the beginning, in a society where a woman's status hinges on her familial ties, particularly those with her father or spouse. The women often find themselves in predicaments they struggle to escape. As a devoted cinephile, I must say that the fate of Kenna in Reign remains somewhat unclear and shrouded in mystery, leaving room for optimism about her future. Henry, played by Alan Bam Sprang, in the 1st season of the series, King Henry II predominantly takes center stage, often as a conflict-causing figure. That following that, he primarily appears in dreams, visions, and flashbacks. Yet, even with limited screen time, King Henry II leaves an indelible mark on the show. That his desire for control sets many relationships in motion within the castle. Uh, in his closing days, he becomes unwell due to the toxic contents found within his personal Bible. Uh, However, this isn't what ultimately claims his life. Instead, it is his son, Francis, who ends up taking his life during a tournament, yet conceals the truth so as not to reveal that he acted in self-defense against Henry's wrath, aiming to protect the castle's residents and the kingdom at large. Um, uh, Narcisse, played by Craig Parker, regarding Narcisse, who played a significant antagonistic role initially, and later married Lady Lola. His fate on the series seems quite sudden. Um, Intriguingly, the show doesn't delve into his final outcome, which is unexpected given how substantial his character becomes once he and Lola form a close bond, making us curious about what happened to him in the end. In the final crucial moment, Narcisse is found in bed with a witch named Emmanuel and Catherine de' Medici. The reason for this unusual gathering is that Emmanuel desires to spend the night with influential individuals to conceive a child of great power. This peculiar ending to Narcissus' tale seems unrelated to his connection with Mary or the monarchy, as it holds no significant impact on these relationships. There's a strong possibility that this specific incident wouldn't have fundamentally changed his personality, and sleeping over with a witch and the Queen Regent could have significantly impacted his character if there was a fifth season. Charles, played by Spencer McPherson, following the demise of Francis Charles, ascends to the throne of France. Yet this responsibility seems beyond his readiness. Throughout much of his early screen presence, he has been more inclined towards evading lessons and disregarding counsel from his elder brother, thus making him less equipped for sort of ruling compared to how prepared his older brother was. Despite Catherine's tireless efforts to maintain her son's reign, Charles fails to recognize her dedication. Uh, Eventually, Charles and Henri disregard Catherine entirely when she attempts to reason with them about um, the potential failures of their plans against Spain. In essence, Catherine steps back from interfering in Charles's rule over France, a decision that Emmanuel warns could be detrimental for him, as he may not last long on the throne. Had the series persisted, viewers might have witnessed the grim aftermath of Charles's schemes unfold and watched as his younger brother ascended to the throne instead. Bash, played by Torrance Coombs, at first, Sebastian, also known as Bash, has feelings for Mary. Unfortunately, their relationship doesn't work out because Mary is set to marry Bosch's future brother, King of France. Due to his father's manipulations, Bash ends up marrying Kenna instead. Despite this, he keeps a friendship with Mary and protects her throughout the show. Once upon a time. However, once his marriage falls apart, so does his screen time on the show. In the end, the viewers were left with an image of Bash making a choice to accompany Mary back to Scotland. However, it is not until season 4 that another character emerges providing insight into Bash's subsequent life in Scotland, where he becomes Druid. This mysterious figure also passes on a prophecy intended for Mary, though the audience only learns this much about it. Catherine, played by Megan Follows, before Mary, Queen of Scotland, Catherine, the former Queen of France, often creates trouble for many allocations. Her strategic maneuvers are aimed at ensuring her offspring's well-being, a measure that seems necessary given the frequent turmoil in royal circles. Initially, she harbors strong disdain towards Mary, but as the series progresses, they form an unlikely partnership driven by their shared concern for Francis. When Catherine makes peace with Francis before he passes away, she vows to serve as Queen Regent until his brother is prepared to reign. During this time, it's revealed in the end that their younger son lacks the qualities needed for kingship. Guided by a witches' council, she decides to let him rule independently, finding comfort instead with her daughter, Margot. Lola, played by Anna Popplewell. Although Lola initially appeared unfaithful to Mary by having a brief liaison with Francis at the start of the series, she has become one of the beloved characters within this show. The viewers admire her for making difficult choices during a period when she was supposed to conform, demonstrating her strength and independence. In the end, it was her unwavering loyalty that led to Lola's tragic demise after her relationship with Narcisse fell apart. Lola chose to go back to her family in England. While there, she was deceived into aiding a plot to kill Queen Elizabeth, thinking she was following Mary's instructions. Despite her brief encounter with Francis, Lola remained faithful to Mary. Unfortunately for Lola, she was found out and she was executed in the presence of her estranged husband. Such a cherished character met a heartbreaking demise as Lola was unaware of the full extent of her predicament. Francis, played by Toby Ridbo, viewers familiar with history knew that Francis would pass away before Mary, even though his poor health ultimately led to his demise. The series deviates from reality in its portrayal of many historical events, which is one reason it's so captivating. However, the show often takes creative liberties to add drama and excitement, meaning that while it's very entertaining, it isn't always historically accurate. When Mary is assaulted in the forest, it falls upon Francis to assist her while the guards are engaged in fending off others. In the ensuing battle, Francis receives a severe head wound from which he fails to recover. Just prior to his passing, he asks Mary to remain within the country until the upcoming monarch, with his mother serving as Queen Regent, ensures her safety before departing of Mac Plod, played by Rose Williams. Claude initially comes across as a mischievous character. Uh, she's Francis's younger sister, often finding it hard to grasp um, why she can't always be the focus at court. Um, Throughout the series, however, she undergoes growth and even develops romantic feelings for the man assigned to protect her seat. In the course of events, Claude isn't able to be with whom she desires and instead enters into an arranged marriage with Narcisse's son. As the series approaches its finale, it appears as though the match pair may be growing fond of each other, particularly when Claude is prevented from departing by herself, who supported brother Charles, who is currently the king, and that's the king's secondary. Um, Surprisingly, Claude's narrative doesn't receive a conclusion. She informs Catherine that her spouse has abandoned her, leaving her without love in return. But unfortunately, this is where her tale concludes for the series. Leaf, um, played by Jonathan Kelts, uh, initially during the first season of the show, Leaf was merely a kitchen assistant harboring feelings for one of Mary's ladies in waiting. Unfortunately, this affection caused her to miss out on a promising suitor who eventually married someone else instead. However, as time passed, Leaf rose through the ranks and eventually joined the Royal Guard. Um, in this rephrased version, Leaf is Claude's personal guard. Unlike many others in the palace, he doesn't feel intimidated by her or treat her as a child. Instead, they develop feelings for each other, but their relationship is cut short when Claude's mother chooses a suitor for her. And later, Claude attempts to nullify her marriage and writes to Leaf hoping for his support. Sadly, she learns that he has already tied the knot with someone else. Though we never see him again in the story. Um, Greer, played by Selena Sinden, when Greer accompanies Mary to the French court, she is under immense stress to ensure her own future, as she has several younger sisters depending on her. Despite facing one of the most chaotic lives in the series, uh, being expelled from the court in France, witnessing her husband's imprisonment, managing a brothel, and engaging a romance with a pirate, Greer remains Mary's loyal lady in waiting until close to the end. And following Lola's passing, Greer decided to relocate to Scotland, with Lola's actions being perceived as treasonous. Mary found herself compelled to make crucial political decisions. Uh, uh, this included seizing the land belonging to Lola's family, to ensure their well-being and keep her cherished friend close. She entrusted the management of the land to Greer and Lord Castleroy, and this strategic move not only kept Greer near, but also protected Lola's family from potential harm at other hands. Um, Among all characters in Greer's conclusion could be the most fulfilling one after the entire course of events in the series. Uh, Elizabeth, played by Rachel Scarston, initially Catherine serves as a primary adversary for Mary in many of the early installments of the show. However, they develop shared interests through Francis, creating an opportunity for new antagonists and challenges for Mary to emerge. On the other hand, Mary faces difficulties finding any harmony with her formidable cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, who is also vying for the throne, as both women believe it should be theirs. And in conclusion, Elizabeth ultimately assumes the role of the authentic warrior queen, leading her forces into conflict, ensuring Mary's imprisonment for treason and ruling fiercely without relying on any man. Fast forwarding 20 years, she extends an offer to Mary's son to succeed her as king, thereby uniting Scotland and England upon her demise, provided he consents to the continuation of his mother's execution proceedings. And since Elizabeth joins the show after the other characters, this means that viewers don't have as many opportunities to bond with her character compared to the main characters appear earlier in the series. Mary, played by Adelaide Kane, Mary strives to live her life peacefully, yet finds herself consistently besieged by dangers to her reign. Her desire to prioritize those closest to her and her compulsion to safeguard herself. Adelaide Kane beautifully depicts a stylish portrayal of a tragic queen for 4 consecutive seasons. As a dedicated movie enthusiast, I find myself reflecting on the final season of Reign, where my protagonist, Mary, chooses to have her mentally troubled spouse eliminated. This decisive act ultimately paves the way for her downfall. The series' concluding episode fast forwards 2 decades into the future, painting a grim picture of Mary being incarcerated in England and facing imminent execution for her heinous acts toward Elizabeth. Despite James, her son, not stepping in to save her from the gallows, he does grant one request she makes of Elizabeth: to reign. Reign's ending disappointed fans. The news about the termination of Reign was broken during production, implying that the cast and writers received a heads up that this would be the series' final season. However, it also meant that many storylines had to be hastily wrapped up in the remaining episodes, contributing to the fans' disappointment with the show's conclusion because some plot lines were condensed. Consistency. In the concluding phase of the series, they hurriedly covered Mary's latter years, leaving less time for viewers to become familiar with the new characters introduced, such as Mary's eventual romantic interest. Consequently, many intriguing subplots were left unresolved, including Kenna establishing her own life, Catherine discovering that her sons were unfit to rule, and Bash embracing Druidism. In essence, the final season lacks the same level of entertaining storytelling as before due to being overly compressed and hurried, which may not provide viewers with the same enjoyment experienced in previous seasons that skillfully blended historical facts with imaginative elements like ghosts, sorcery, and scandalous rumors. It would have been beneficial for Reign to extend its last storylines slightly so as to deliver a more fulfilling ending to viewers.